Any reason?
Resource Committee meeting together at 4:05. Would you do the prayer, please, Frankie?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this gathering. We thank you for the employees, Lord, who serve our people each meeting, and we just thank you for all that you do. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen.
Joe, do the roll call, please.
Sir, Curtis Snell.
Here.
Rex Jordan.
Here.
Bill England.
Honey.
Keith Austin.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Harley Buzzer.
Here.
Joe Berg.
Honey.
Sean Crittenden.
Honey.
Don Garvin.
Honey.
Frankie Hargis. Wanda Hatfield.
Honey.
Dick Lay.
Here.
Denise Taylor.
Here.
David Thornton. Victoria Vesquez.
Honey.
David Walkingstick.
Honey.
Brian Warner.
Honey.
We do have a quorum.
I need the approval of the November 14th regular session
Motion
meeting.
to be approved.
Second.
I've got a motion and seconded. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Moving on down to reports, management resources. Bruce Davis.
Good afternoon. Good to see everyone. It's been a while since I've been here.
It has.
Made a couple of trips up north to North Dakota with Speaker Byrd one trip and Chief Baker with another trip. So it's an honor and a privilege to get to go up there and help out on a great cause. So I want to report on that. So you have my report. If have any questions, I'll try to answer those questions at this time.
Any questions for Bruce? Good report, Bruce.
All right, thank you. Good to see everybody again.
Hey, Brett.
Hey, have a happy holiday.
Hey, before you go,
Okay.
we're going to discuss a land lease here.
Okay.
Have you and any of your staff been to see that property that's in discussion?
I'm sure Ginger has. Ginger?
Yeah, I know Ginger has, but I was wondering if you and your staff.
Yes, we have been there, yes.
Okay. All right, we may want some opinion here later on.
Okay.
Moving on down to real estate services. Ginger Brown Reeves. Ginger.
Good afternoon. I think you have a copy of my report. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to address them.
Any questions for Ginger? Yes, Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I forgot to ask you another question a while ago while we were talking. There's something going around up in D.C. about the possibility of getting rid of federal lands. And I don't think I've got any where I live, but I think there may be some over by Harley's area. I'm not sure. Maybe we should, if we have any in the jurisdiction.
Getting rid of federal lands?
Yep,
Can you be more specific?
selling federal property.
Are you familiar with that? I'm not familiar with that
Okay.
specifically.
Just kind of
Okay,
heads up.
all right.
Yes, Harley.
Just what I've read, what Dick's talking about is taking federal lands and put it back to privatize it under the Trump administration. That's the
Oh,
rumors
oh.
going on.
Yes, I've heard that myself.
I don't know what your question was, Dick, but is that part of it?
Yeah, and just keep a heads up, if they do that, we probably should have first shot.
Certainly.
Make sure we're in line, I guess. Yeah.
We will keep our ear to the sidewalk.
Any more questions for Ginger? Good report, Ginger.
Thank you.
Environmental programs, Tom Elkins.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. I'm not going to keep my ear to the sidewalk, but you have our report, but be happy to answer any questions. Just to note that on the measures that we have percentages of, they seem a little low right now, but I've checked in the years past, and it seems like the first quarter we don't really have huge numbers. Second and third quarter, and even the fourth quarter, we make them up quite nicely. And these are the numbers that we've added a few numbers since then, but these are what we usually come up with the dollars that you give us. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Any questions for Tom? Yes, Harley.
I noticed on our landfill on the inspection, Tom, did we close the The leachate pond, is that right?
Yes, sir, that
Okay, so
leachate pond. It was reclassified as a stormwater pond
Oh, I
because the numbers in it were so low. They were the same numbers as the stormwater pond, so there wasn't really a reason to keep it as a leachate pond.
Okay. I've noticed that the last 2 or 3 months.
Well, they never used it. They started tanking their leachate, and what ended up happening was they hauled it and they hauled it and they hauled
Oh,
it,
I see.
and that water became so diluted by rainwater, there just wasn't anything to keep it.
Class 3.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
More questions for Tom? Good report, Tom. Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas.
Moving down to Secretary of Natural Resources, Sarah Hill.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sarah.
Probably the most critical thing that's been happening the last month has been the Illinois River. The Arkansas and Oklahoma set up several years ago a joint commission to study phosphorus on the Illinois River. And to look at that, they were studying their response. They called it a stressor response study to see what is their response to the river when phosphorus goes up and down. And they especially looked at algae to see what types of algae grew under what kinds of conditions. And that study came to a close, and Arkansas and Oklahoma have been deliberating whether or not the phosphorus standard, which right now is .037, should be raised or should be lowered. And the chief wrote a column about that in the I think it was last week's paper. And I went to the most recent meeting in December, and it looks to me like they're going to keep it at .037. I think they agreed on a .035 recommendation. The study was extremely clear that at .035, that you definitely began to see nuisance levels of algae in the Illinois. Now, to me, that means it should be lower than .035. I'd like to see it managed so where we don't ever get nuisance levels of algae in the Illinois River, but I don't think that's going to be the recommendation of the group. But it is good that it's not going to be raised because this study was funded by folks from Arkansas, and I was concerned that the outcome of it would be to try to raise it from .037 to something higher, which would have been really detrimental to me, to water quality. So I just wanted to let you know that that has occurred. Now, they still have another meeting set to make their final recommendations, and I will continue to keep really close tabs on that. And Tom Elkins and Pat Gwynn have been going with me to the meetings. And we have continued to keep a close eye on it, and we will continue to do so. At .037, I think the river will stay about where it is, and it'll just be, it's not a recipe for good water quality, though, so there's still a lot of work to do on the Illinois. But I wanted to bring you up to date on that situation. And the EPA, years ago, I think we're looking at 2 or 3 years, 2 years ago now, they started their TMDL process. And now that they're going to have a standard from Oklahoma and Arkansas, I'm hopeful that that TMDL process will move forward. And in that process, EPA can begin to manage the river to keep it healthier and cleaner, or to encourage the states to continue to manage it properly. So we'll continue to be engaged with EPA on that work as well. At environmental programs, which I know that Tom reported on, one thing I wanted to let you know is that we have a new water and air laboratory over there at environmental programs. The old one it was a mobile building, and mold had started to grow in it, and we just got that replaced in the last couple weeks, and the staff are really happy about that. And I'm really glad to see that they have better, safer facilities to work in. When you're doing, especially air quality, it's really bad to have mold growing in the area. We're trying to do air sampling, so I'm really pleased that we were able to get that accomplished. Tribal Historic Preservation they're really busy. Sheila's really busy planning the To Bridge a Gap conference, which is hosted by different tribes all over the country. It's a U.S. Forest Service conference, and it's going to also include a lot of other federal agencies, and that's going to be February 21st through the 24th. And it's going to be fantastic. I really would encourage any of you, if you've got the potential to get that on your calendars and could attend, we'll be sending you more information as it gets closer, but there are several events going on then that are going to be really fantastic, and it's a lot of different tribes and federal agencies, so it's a good opportunity for the Cherokee Nation to show off the good work that we've been doing here. On our hunting and fishing licenses, they should be issued. I hope that they're ready to go in the mail at the end of this next week or the week after. We're still waiting on Oklahoma to firm up some of the things that they have to do on it, so I don't have an exact date yet. When I get that date, I will share it with all of you. But they will be going out in the mail shortly, and so everyone will be getting their 2017 hunting and fishing license, and I hope that people continue to put it to good use. We gave away our grand prize big buck hunt at the Lost Creek Ranch up near Pawhuska, and the winner came in today, and she said she had a wonderful time. They have no Wi-Fi up there, and they were worried about that, her and her husband, but they took their 4 kids, and she said after one day of that, they all realized what a good plan that had been. They had nothing to do but talk to each other and go outside, and she shot an 8-point buck, which she had many pictures of and is very proud of. So we were really, her name is Joanne Pratt. And so she came and took a picture and really enjoyed spending some time with her family, hunting and enjoying the outdoors. I've continued to do a lot of things. I went to North Dakota with Chief Baker and the rest of a lot of other tribal officials. Talked to the legal tent up there because that's an area of interest I have. I talked to they call it the Red Owl Collective. They've been representing the water protectors up there, and they're just in a tent. At that time, they were in a tent. Operating basically a law office in a dirt floor tent, and they are some courageous people, and they talked about some of the difficulties they had, and it was very heart-touching to see the work. Most of the people working there were non-Indians. They're just doing it, I think, because they believed it was the right thing to do, and they came from all over the country. So that was really impressive to see the dedication of the people there working to represent the water protectors who'd been charged with things. And I'm going to continue I sit on a regional and a national tribal caucus for the EPA. We've been talking transition for the agency, how to keep the good work that tribes do with the EPA going into the next administration. Until we know who's going to be, we know who's been appointed, but until the confirmation occurs, it's hard to know, what effects that might have on Cherokee Nation or the other programs that we have. So we're just going to have to continue to work on making our case for why tribes are good partners for EPA and why that relationship works for Indian country. So that's believe it or not, the shortest version I've got to tell you kind of a snapshot of what we've been up to the last month and some of the things that we're continuing to work on in my office.
Have any questions for Sarah? Yes, Harley.
Sarah, that .037 pH, is that just for the Illinois or for all the creeks in our jurisdictional boundaries?
That's a good clarification. It is for the scenic rivers, which includes not only the Illinois, but all of the scenic rivers in Oklahoma would be affected by that .037 phosphorus standard.
Oh.
Yes.
Uchi. Now, is that part of that .037
Yes.
phosphorus? Is that?
Yeah, Uchi's a scenic river, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it is too.
Okay, I'm sorry. No, it will have to be continued to, then it'll be monitored under the lawsuit that was filed in the City of Tulsa lawsuit. I
Okay.
think the special master is still involved in that suit
Okay.
in Uchi.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
What about Lease Creek?
Leaf Creek is a scenic river, at least part of it is in Oklahoma.
Good.
Any more questions for Sarah?
Good report.
Report, Sarah.
Thank you.
You have a question? Moving on down to old business. Sarah, would you give us a hint? Excuse me, not Sarah, but
Ginger?
a lady. Okay, on this resolution, the resolution authorizing Cherokee Nation to lease 190 acres of U.S. entrust land to RGB Realty Limited, DBA Hunt Mill Hollow Ranch, LLC. What is the,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a comment.
yes,
I asked for these gentlemen to come before the committee and council and us, take a look and see who we're dealing with, you know.
Yes, sir.
I think it's only fair, if the shoe was on the other foot, they would want to see who we were. To send one of our employees to come and negotiate on their behalf is okay sometimes, but something of this magnitude, I say, I'd like to look at who we might be doing business with. So I was going to say, make a suggestion, we table this because they could come next month, is that correct?
Yes, sir, he sure can. Mr. Burlingame can come, Dr. Burlingame can come next month.
Councilor Critton, is that all right with you?
Yes.
And Might I clarify that I'm not negotiating on his behalf, I'm negotiating on behalf of the Cherokee Nation.
Okay.
I just
yeah.
want to clarify this, as this is a trespass.
Okay.
We'll table this one.
You have contact with those folks?
Yes, with Dr. Burlingame. He is RGB Realty.
Okay.
Yes.
A second motion to table.
We've got a motion second. Any discussion? All in favor of table?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Has it one? Somebody. I'll get you marked here on the side. We're moving down to announcements. Any announcements?
We got one more.
We got a new- Skip that one.
These weeds, this one more. These weeds.
TIM 346, David Walkenstick.
Yes. Chairman, this is discussion only. It's a presentation pertaining to a cattle C-stock program. In the audience, we have Mr. Trey Ratliff. He's a successful business owner, insurance man here in Tahlequah, and he's also a Cherokee rancher. He's here to give a small, brief presentation on the cattle C-stock program. Mr. Trey Ratliff, if you guys please come forward. This is Trey, and he's
Apparently I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I've been sitting down in the council chambers. Thank you guys for having me today. Mr. Walkenstick, thank you. I actually have a folder and some things that I'd like to pass out to you just for... This is never right behind me a second ago.
just to a motion.
You give these
You can do a motion and say it for discussion.
proposal here, and I'll have to make a couple of trips. I know you guys been sitting here all day plugging away on stuff, so. You guys are hustling through all this, but I'll try to make it short and sweet. Together. There you go. All right. That's real. They don't rain high enough.
Charge on a stick.
I got home cooking. Don't worry, that
Appreciate you, Trey.
safe as leaving a Reese's parking lot and getting home, so it'll be good for when the time comes. We got one more. Had a gentleman helping me with a presentation. Not sure where he's at either, but you don't have a book. And you'll find most of the pertinent information is in there for when you guys get home and are eating ribeye and doing some research, homework around the dinner table. So to make this as short and sweet as possible for you guys to kind of get a grasp. I know that the council and members of the council have entertained conversations about potentially being in the cattle business. To what I understand, for the most part, there really, wasn't much of a conversation to be had. Didn't really go very far. This concept, I guess, utilizes a bunch of the resources that the Cherokee Nation currently has, which, as you'll see in the binder, is for the most part Chilocco, the land at Chilocco. This concept really is. One thing that I think is important that we realize is that there will be no mother cows. The Cherokee Nation will not own a single mother cow. Okay, the game plan really is to provide an outlet for Native American ranchers that are within the 14 counties of the Cherokee Nation to take the calves that they normally would sell at the local sale barn and contract and partner with the tribe. Essentially giving them another outlet for their cattle, and at the same time allowing those calves that are sold to be potentially fed back to our people. I think that if the timeline, if you follow through the proposal, essentially is what we're talking about is developing some sort of quality control with local ranchers. The quality control is basically a usage of an artificial insemination program on a massive level, which essentially could possibly make all the calves that the Cherokee Nation purchases to put on the Chilocco land brothers and sisters, kind of uniforming what we have as far as the genetic makeup of the calves that are then shipped. In that proposal, you'll also see the construction of a mono-slope feedlot facility. That mono-slope feedlot facility has vats underneath it. It's a covered structure. It keeps the animals as safe as possible and out of the weather, shaded in the winter and covered in the, shaded in the summer and covered in the winter. There's a proposal in there for, the cost of that, which is a fairly significant investment of about $1.5 million for that feedlot facility. Utilizing the corn, as we know, most of the Chilocco property is essentially farmland. I think that taking that farmland and using that as an access to create feed and feedstuffs for that feedlot facility could be a valuable resource. You'll also see in there that the next level, the next step of the program, and I've kind of come to, there's a couple of different options in there. I know that the Quapaws have and are in the process of developing a processing facility. To my understanding, they've got a significant investment in that facility. It could be very neighborly of us. It could be very neighborly of us to provide cattle to them so that they don't miss a beat. Day one, when they get ready to contract with us, we're shipping those cattle to them. Okay. Another option is, and you'll see it in I believe it's in the yellow tab. After the yellow tab is a piece of property that's across from Wilma Mancular Center over in Stillwell. The Wilma Mancular Center is, of course, in proximity to Stillwell, being somewhat of a disadvantaged community. There's lots of jobs that go to Tyson. That old Tyson plant, that chicken plant, could potentially be converted to a beef slaughterhouse and processing facility. Once those animals get shipped from Chilocco, from our feedlot to the processing plant, whether that's an agreement with the Quapaws or whether that's our own self-contained processing facility, where in this plan, that's where a majority of the jobs come in, is by having folks that work there at that plant for us. I think the biggest benefit of having a processing plant and our own vertically integrated system where the animals, once they leave the ranch, we are in possession of them from A to D. The distribution, right? So the distribution, which as you guys probably know better than I do, and that was the hard part as far as putting this plan together, was trying to find the data. How much do we spend as far as the tribe? How much are we spending on an annual basis with food distributors like Benny, Keith, and Cisco? And whether you're talking about cafeterias at Hastings or the golf courses or the casinos or the restaurants or the restaurant of the Cherokees, if we were to compile all those numbers and then say 15 to 20% of that are beef items, why is it not feasible, or is it feasible? Maybe that's the question, to supply ourselves with those products, to supply our own restaurants with those products, in addition to working with Benny, Keith, and Cisco, who distribute to all of those locations, and asking them to push our product, asking them to push our branded beef product into other markets, to other restaurants, to other tribally owned restaurants for starters, Taro-type certified restaurants. I think that the feasibility of this is to question because there's a lot of data that I don't have. That I feel like the information that you guys as a council and what CNB has could really put the fine tuning to this proposal. So I leave it in your guys' hands as to whether or not we can move forward with something like this and essentially feed our people the beef that we produce. It's a large undertaking. There's a lot of things to consider and to think about. I've been working very closely with a gentleman named Alex Johns, who's with the Seminole tribe. He is essentially what has helped them get their branded beef product, Seminole Pride, off the ground. He's been able to answer every question. He's been very thorough. And truly he's envious of the position that we are in because of, one, our size, as far as the size of the tribe and the scope of our internal need, in addition to the resources that we have. The Seminoles being in Florida, they make money on their program, but they're even shipping their cattle that are in a similar type program. They're shipping their cattle from Florida to the Midwest to feedlots, and then shipping them back to have them processed. So they're essentially custom feeding those animals, whereas I feel like that would be an option for us. But if we have the resources and the capability to utilize Chilocco, utilize that property, and take the animals that we raised and essentially our people have raised all the way through the system, that this could be a win for everybody. A guy once said, when was the best time to plant a tree? Well, 20 years ago. Second best time is today. Any questions?
I have several questions. How long have you been in the cattle business?
About 10 years.
How many local producers have you visited with to see if they would sell you the calves?
Probably, I'd say 24. I've actually had some that have come to my office that their girlfriend heard about it, or when I'm being younger and in the social media world, I've put some stuff on there about my ideas and about the possibility of this being a viable outlet for guys like me and cattlemen in the nation to that they would follow through with. And I think it's pretty simple. Cattlemen want a fair price for their cattle.
Right? No, they want a top price for their cattle.
Right. And they don't want to have to jump through a bunch of hoops to do it. Right?
But if they haul them to market, they don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops.
That's right.
They get their check right then.
That's right.
That's what you would have to do, is give them a check right then.
That's right. And that's in the proposal. That's part of the proposal. Absolutely. It is, in my strategy is we show up on is this thing on?
You can go to the TV, but you'll be able to see it on me.
Okay. I think I'm pretty close to done, so we don't necessarily. I had a presentation put together, but anyways. So to answer your question, Rex, I think that the Cherokee people have an interest, right? So when you talk to them about and specifically Jerry Hare, who's my neighbor. I don't know if any of the counselors know Jerry Hare, but he's been a neighbor of mine for 30 years, and he's a 79-year-old man. He's a Cherokee Indian. He's been a successful cattle producer. I mentioned it to him, and it's funny because he'd call me out of the blue and he'd say, "Hey, well, what about this? What about?" So I think that there's a lot of interest there. I know that there's a few here in the crowd that have somewhat followed through with questions and answered questions and asked questions about this type of program. But really, if you drill down to it, there's a lot in this for the rancher. That's what's important, is really what is in it for the rancher and what is it for the tribe, and can it be mutually beneficial. I think that introducing an artificial insemination program. I've contacted several companies, Select Sires, ABS, Gen X. You know, they offer a shoot side service, right? So that shoot side service, they show up on your ranch. You have a kind of a calendar of this is what you need to do to your cows prior to in order to bring them into estrus or bring them into heat. So when they show up with their service, and they run them through the chute, they artificially inseminate them, you know, you're looking at 65% conception rates, give or take. They say that the first go round, it's a little shaky, but after that, once those cattle get used to that program, that, the conception rates continue to climb. In this proposal, I envision taking 50%, right? 50% of the calves that are produced as a product of that artificial insemination, right? You take those calves and we take those to Chilocco and they go through the system, okay? The remaining, say 15%, the ones that are conceived, it allows us to cull some of those animals because maybe they don't perform like we had thought they would, and it also allows the rancher to dip into some of those genetics, some of those top genetics, and say, these are some of the best calves that I've ever had. I know that it came out of one of the best bulls in the keep herd. I want to keep this heifer calf in my herd and continue with the program. So over a period of time, the genetic makeup of that overall herd is same time that artificial insemination. If I was to do it with my herd, it would probably cost me upward of $65 or $70 per animal. Whereas when you buy the semen in bulk, because that's where those guys are making, that's where they're making the money, is they're selling units of semen. If we contract with those companies and partner with our Native American ranchers, that cost comes down to the 30 range, $35, $36, $36.85 is what's in the proposal, and that's what I've received from those companies. And that's at the ranch, on your cows, turn them out, we catch those calves, and then keep them in the program.
So what happens, you come out and I have my cows, and I decide I'm gonna keep them, they're all heifers, I'm gonna keep them.
Right.
Then what happens?
It is a contract. I mean, there is a contract that you're entering into with that rancher, and everybody has to be on the same page. And that's one of the biggest challenges.
That's the problem. Everybody's not gonna be on the same page.
One of the challenges is we all have to be on the same level. They have to have an understanding that this is not just for Councilor Jordan, this is for everybody, and this is for all of your people. This is for your tribe. And so seeing the bigger picture and the character of the individuals we work with, without question, is vital. So if we partner with 50 or 60 or 75 of these ranchers that have the utmost character and can fit into the system and are going to provide us with the arrangements where we can work together, then I think that this is a win. And really the difference between what the Seminoles are doing and the difference between the proposal that I've brought to you is the Seminoles purchased a bull ranch or a seed stock ranch. If you're familiar with the Spur Ranch and their bull production sale, or Three Forks and their bull production sale, they essentially made the capital investment to purchase one of those bull farms. Up front, that would cost us. I've had conversations with Mark Sexton from Three Forks, and you're probably in the $10, $12, $15 million range just to purchase the stock that doesn't include the animals, because you're purchasing the genetic makeup and so on. If we go to an artificial insemination program, there's no comparison. There's no comparison because you're talking about, one, you've got the flexibility of using the top bulls, right? If you go to Three Forks and you buy a bull that's out of the top sire, your product, the animal that the Cherokee Nation would be buying back, is a grandson or a granddaughter. If you use the artificial insemination program, these are daughters and sons, okay? So the genetic makeup is significantly better. The grade potentially is significantly better. And it's really just that upfront investment is what we're offsetting of buying a bull ranch and being in the cow business and keeping records of all the. This small team of artificial insemination technicians and a few cowboys show up on site, work the cows, in and out, we're done. A year later, we show up with those same crew to do it again, and we identify those calves that at that point would be 3 months old, give or take 3 months old, and we brand those calves with the Cherokee brand. We put EID tags in those cattle so that we can keep records of when they had their vaccinations, when, if they're up to date, whether banned them, and so on. And then those 6, 8, 9 months later, the tribe purchases and sends to Chilocco.
That's all I have. Yes.
I have a couple of questions for anyone here with our executive branch about this proposal.
Chuck Garrett, Chuck, we had a small business group meeting with a couple council members and some of the CMB staff. Chuck Garrett was involved with that meeting.
And I did speak I did speak outside of that meeting. Of course, Mr. Warner was here, Walking Stick was here, Councilor Buzzard was here. There was a couple others in the room that were in that initial meeting.
Right here.
I did speak on the phone with Buck George, who's on the board of directors for CNB. I feel like a guy like Buck George is really, with his knowledge in both feed, right? So for the Chilocco feed site, with his knowledge of of what it would take to be able to take that corn and the crops and convert that to a feed stuff. I feel like his resources are vital, but his after he listened to the proposal, and he's a man of few words. If you know him, he doesn't say much, but essentially what he said is, others are doing it, not necessarily just tribes, not necessarily just the Seminoles or the Quapaws, but this is another section of there's another sector of the cattle industry. It's people are buying calves, they take them to wheat fields, process, and they sell them. I mean, it's just another portion of the cattle business.
Did Chuck Garrett think it was a good idea, or did he say? What kind of feedback did you get from Mr. Garrett?
I don't know that I spoke to Chuck. Was he on the conference call the day that we
was on the conference call?
He wasn't on there long. Remember, he had to check out, and his assistant took notes.
Yeah, I think he had an arrangement.
Councilman Garvin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I grew up on a farm, a ranch, a cow-calf operation. Many years we had open range and raised a lot of calves. This all sounds pretty good. If we're thrilled about the feedlot, I think we'd be better off. And I think you said the Seminoles were doing that. The ideas are interesting.
If this can all come in phases, and really, to answer, to speak to that point, these calves, we can put them on that wheat field. We can put on our crop. We put in the winter wheat and graze those animals for a certain period of time, West Texas or to, Southwest Colorado, where they can go to a feedlot and be. It's in the proposal. Typically, the price ranges from $1.50 to $1.75 per animal per day. They're roughly 6 to 7, 8 months, depending on But it's I feel like that's absolutely a viable option. It's not one that I put in the plan. It is what's best for the people, what's best for the tribe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Council Lady Taylor?
In this operation.
I feel that I'm here today is to give an alternative for us as far as Native Americans. I know that there's no guarantee that there's any benefit for me personally, other than hopefully selling my calves to the tribe. And so you help enough people get what they want, you get what you want.
Right. That's all.
Yes.
Just like I say, I appreciate you coming down with the presentation early, way too early to, like you said, it's a big issue to finalize anything, but I just appreciate you coming with the presentation, ideas, and production, and I like it, and long ways to go, but I like that initiative with things that a lot of us aren't familiar with, but a lot of us are familiar with cattle, so it gives us something to think about, and so I appreciate you coming. I'll definitely have an open mind discussing this. Thank you.
Can I have a comment?
Yes.
Yes, Trey, I appreciate your presentation as well, because from day one, Councilor Buzzard has talked about other ways of bringing revenue to the tribe and getting back to our agriculture. We haven't had anyone really make this type of thorough presentation to us, and it's good to see that there are options out there for us in the cattle business because, I follow that Seminole tribe. They do, and my kids are part Quapaw as well, so when Quapaws eat well, my kids eat well.
That's right.
And it really goes in a circle how we try as we work together and we can partnership and sign all kinds of MOUs. This is a good concept. I think what we could do is resources guy that it looks at a lot of our proposals that way, but this is very interesting. We appreciate you giving us an opportunity for, like Sean said, more employment and a different way of making revenue here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you to the council for being, being in touch with its citizens and allowing us to present, an idea. And thank you, Councilor Walking Stick for listening and providing, me an opportunity to share this idea. And it's just a different angle of something. I think that most people, when they envision being as a Cherokee Nation, being involved in the cattle business, they envision having cows and having calves and having to manage. This is completely separate from the cow-calf side. This is a stocker operation. And you use these genetics on your cow herd, and we're going to be interested in those calves, and we're going to buy them back. And the better, and even another opportunity, kind of like what Councilor mentioned about. We're dealing in commodities at this point. This is a commodity market where even if the product doesn't reach our feedlot, if it goes out west, or even if they just an asset there, the asset is that's a market that's gained from when you bought it at 550 or 600 or 700 pounds. It now weighs 600, 700, or 800 pounds. There's people and there's buyers that will be interested in that product, whether it ever makes it to the Quapaws or whether it ever makes it to Stillwell to be processed. Actual supply of cattle based around the people that we work with on an ongoing annual basis. That's truly the value in the whole proposal.
Appreciate that.
Yes.
Trey, I appreciate you coming and presenting to the council. I know you took a lot of time up to get all your research and data, and you talked to a lot of our shareholders in Cherokee Nation. What I'm mostly excited about this presentation is our relationship with the USDA in Washington. I know the tribe gets millions of dollars in grants every year from the USDA. I know, and if we were to go into this type of operation, I think the funds would be limitless with the contacts we have. With the idea of having Cherokee branded beef and be able to supply our own beef in our own casinos and possibly saturate the state of Oklahoma with organic beef. Health. People are going on healthy kicks these days. They're wanting to increase their lifespan and all the different steroids and chemicals that they pump into these animals. We're offering something that is going to increase the longevity of our people. Saying that, currently we're in a buffalo operation, which I think is more of a Hollywood operation. It's a dog and pony show. We get a lot of publicity out of it. We're on the news. Cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. What have we got back in return? I think the end in mind is that we're going to have a big buffalo herd one day that is going to decrease diabetes, and all this research goes along. But I see that operation 20, 30 years down the road before it's actually going to be a big buffalo operation. Cattle operation is here and in present day. And the startup could be large if we want to go large scale, or we could be small if we wanted to be a downscale. What Councilman Jordan was saying was, so what's in it for the cattle rancher? What does the Seminoles, when they go out to a ranch and they're going to offer money for one of their Seminole branded calves, what's an incentive for a rancher to sell it back to the Seminoles?
Well, two answers for you there, David. One is as far as the relationship with the USDA that you spoke of. That monoslope feedlot facility that you see came directly off of a USDA website, EQIP federally funded type program where there's significant cost share savings there for us. To answer your question about the Seminoles, data is really the driver. Okay, so when I say data, I mean that when we sell our cattle at the sale barn, when we load them up, and we take our set of 500 or 600 pound calves, hopefully, to Stillwell or Tahlequah Livestock Auction or even Joplin or Oklahoma City, that's all we know at that point is how many of them there were, how much they weighed, and how much we got paid on. This type of program, right? This type of vertically integrated program will allow us to get feedlot data on those animals. If we, especially if we do it on our own, even if it goes to a custom feedlot, we'll be able to get information. We're able to get information on those individual animals that we can trace back to the bulls that were used, to the cows that they came out of, and be able to make better selection decisions based upon the genetics. That is really, and that's the answer straight out of the horse's mouth from Alex Johns, the guy that's been helping me with the Seminole tribe. He said, data, data, data. He says, those guys can make better decisions for their herd based upon the information that they know of what those calves have done through the system.
Is there, I know the Seminoles, don't they give a extra dollar amount for talking about top market share?
Yep.
Or,
the margins are small in the cattle business. It doesn't matter what type of operation you run. The margins are fairly small. So for us to be able to forecast that that the rancher is going to make $100 a head premium, that's probably not feasible. The Seminoles earn about a $50 per head premium. Okay. He said that if the cattle are held, if the rancher holds them until 750 pounds, where they go straight to the feedlot facility, where they get on a truck and go straight west, and then they're paid a 4-cent per pound premium off the grid price. So those animals, may capture $50 to $75 more per head by going into their system. But the important thing there is, and I wish that we would have had our, I've got this presentation, which I guess I could potentially email it to you guys. There's some links and there's some information on there that really shows, the value of the tribe and the pride that they take in their operation. Them versus us, another significant difference really is, they've been in the cattle business since 1521. I mean, that's kind of the story. That's kind of the story that helps them sell their product. Now, our story could be based around, the Cherokee Strip or the Chalaco School, or so it's a difference. It's a marketing deal. But they've been in the cattle business for a long time. They have a reservation, the Brighton Reservation, which is over 30,000 acres, and they, as a tribe, similar how we own a buffalo herd, they as a tribe own 14,000 mother cows themselves, and then also incorporate other cooperative herds into their program.
what's the percentage of that, of them, the ones they own, and then the partnerships?
20% of the ones that they own go into the program, and the others are cooperator herds. There's 67 Seminole tribal members that are in that program that participate with them. The numbers that I get from Alex is 6,500 head. 6,500 head are what went through their program or what will go through this program this year. Okay, 6,500 head is about 3.5 million pounds of beef, right? 3.5 million pounds of beef. They're capturing about $2,300 per animal. When they take that animal and it goes through the system and it's processed and it sits in a box, give or take that box, depending on the grade and the quality of that animal, is roughly about $2,300 worth of value at a wholesale market. Okay, so the challenge to us to be profitable in this operation is to be able to take schematically the same type of scenario, the same systems, depending on what our costs are and what the value of that box is, they're, in my mind, they operate off of Brangus. Essentially, they use a Brangus program. I feel like the further you move north, you incorporate more of the British genetics like Angus and anyways, the quality grade, the grading of those animals typically is a little bit better than your Bos Indicus cattle or the Brahman type influence cattle. So the point being is if the value of the animal that's in this box packaged and ready to go is $2,300, if we can get it to that point for less than $2,300, if we can get it there at $2,100 or $2,000, we're profitable.
That's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
More questions? Well, we will talk this over.
Hey, Chair, if I may, is there any way we could table this and move it to next month's meeting? Their presentation. I'm trying to figure out what's the action or the will of this body moving forward.
We need to have some conversation with our local people here.
You can bring it back up any time because you just put it on there as discussion. So if you want to visit with our staff, the chief, and our decision makers, then you can call Trey back anytime and put him back on the agenda with his presentation.
Okay, maybe CMB board meeting or something. Chief, do you think that'd be more feasible for the CMB board to hear a presentation?
This is the first I've seen that. I just read the proposal. Give me a little time, don't make me tell you what to do.
Is that how you want to do it, Counselor?
This is the presentation for is, I don't know what the will is, or what do we need to do moving forward? I guess I need some guidance.
Well, you had it on there as discussion, you accomplished that. And then what you can do is we're not voting on it, yes or no. So you can call him back anytime and put it back on the agenda. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Good.
So we thank you for the presentation, and we will go through Councilman Walkenstick and get back with you when we're next to time to write.
Perfect. Thank you guys very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Good job.
Merry Christmas to you.
I got something for you.
Well, moving on down to announcements. I need a, next meeting is January the 16th at 3:59. I need a motion to adjourn.
No second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it.
No.